let's talk about just standing. That's going to be kind of posture, and that's the first piece here. So let's go ahead and stand up with your feet perfectly straight on the ground. One of my favorite questions to ask people when they're coming into an intro session in the gym is, do you know what a Kegel is? And what most people's reaction is you can see it on their faces. They know what it is, but they don't want to admit they know what it is just in case they're wrong.
I mean, it was like the Algonquin kids table.
But it is exactly what you're thinking. We're going to start by flexing our pelvic floor. If you're not sure what that means, act like you need to go to the restroom and you're trying to not pee. Okay, so flex your pelvic floor. We're going to squeeze your butt cheeks together, draw your belly button into your spine. So now what I want you to do on your feet is I want you to lean forward and really feel your toes, pinky toes, big toes grip the ground. Now I want you to lean backwards, and I want you to feel your toes come up off the ground and feel all that weight go back on your heels. Now cave your feet in, and I want you to feel your arches collapse and go on the outsides of your feet. I want you to feel your big toe come up, and now we're on the outside of the feet. So the key here, and some of the biggest mistakes we see people make long-term, even our elite athletes, all centers on the foot. So let's make sure we get nice and balanced even on the foot. So wiggle around and find dead center of that foot. So Kegel, draw your belly button in, squeeze your butt cheeks. Now take your feet and act like I'm standing on a sheet of paper, and I'm going to try and rip it this way. So my feet are going to screw into the ground, toes going out, but if you notice, my feet aren't actually going anywhere. But I'm trying to create torque in my hip through the ground, through my feet. So like I said, to get my shoulder in a good place, I'm always going to try and create torque with my hands. To get my hips in a good place, I'm always going to try and create torque with my feet. So we are screwing our feet into the ground. Okay, so with that in place, belly button drawn in, butt tight, Kegel, screw your feet into the floor, nice and balanced. We're going to take your rib cage, pull it down, then stand nice and tall with your rib cage pulled down. We're going to get your shoulders back in their sockets. Let's go ahead and exaggerate. We're going to rotate and get your palms forward, and then we're going to balance your head over everything. So the key here is notice that I didn't talk to you the whole time, standing in this posture.
You're horrible.
So if we create maximal torque and we draw and flex hard, that is going to be how we organize and brace for moving really heavy, really fast, doing these things. But as we're just standing here talking, we're going to brace and flex and do everything as hard as we need to. So it's going to be the same thing. How hard do you hold a tennis racket or a golf club or a baseball or softball bat or whatever it is? You hold it as hard as you need to. So as we're talking, I don't need to maximally stand here, but I do need to be drawing my belly button in, squeezing my butt cheeks, Kegel, screwing a little bit into the ground to get some torque there, extending up, getting those shoulders back and balancing my head. So we all turn into who we turn into when we're not paying attention. Me personally, you can catch me and I get little wrinkles in my shirt here because I tend to let my shoulders dump forward, and then I tend to let my pelvis dump forward. So if I'm doing nothing, I don't have any pelvis stability. This gives me personally a lot of low back pain, and I can sometimes deal with front of the shoulder stuff if I'm not paying attention. So butt tight, belly button drawn in, you can see it change my pelvis position. Not on, on. And everyone's going to be different. Some people are going to be too far this way. So we need to think of organizing that pelvis so it's just straight up and down. And we're going to organize that rib cage so it's right over it. So you are who you are, and we've got to make sure that you're doing what you need to hold these good positions. Okay, so that's how to stand. Let's go over it one more time. And this is something, especially in this virtual class, this is something I'm going to say over and over and over again to help you just organize the checklist. So think about it. Draw your belly button in, Kegel, squeeze your butt cheeks, full foot, screw those feet into the floor, rib cage down, stand tall, get those shoulders back with a little bit of rotation there, balance the head. So this is what get tight means. So there's some people in the gym that are wearing weight belts. Almost everybody in our gym is not wearing a weight belt, and it's because we're trying to add in that extra context of why are you working out. And we don't want to get caught up in we're doing back squats or we're doing thrusters or whatever to get better at back squats. That's not what we're trying to do. We're doing back squats. We're using these functional exercises to try and get you better at what your goals are and the things that you want to do in your life. So let's talk real fast. How would we get tight if we're wearing a weight belt? I would draw my belly button in, I would cinch a weight belt up super tight, and then I would push my belly out into that weight belt. And that pressure would tighten up my low back, and it'd help hold my lumbar spine or my low back in place. The issue with this is that if I push out, and if that's how my brain gets tight when I'm moving, if I'm not wearing a weight belt, it's literally the exact opposite of what we want you to do if you don't have a weight belt on. So now if we're training day in and day out, maybe we have a back issue and that's why we put on a weight belt, and all we're gonna do is exacerbate that issue. So instead of attacking the root of the cause and figuring out, hey, maybe we've got a back issue because we're not bracing properly, instead of hiding the issue, we wanna attack it. So again, how do we get organized? Draw the belly button in, Kegel, squeeze your butt cheeks, screw your feet into the floor, ribcage down, stand tall, get the shoulders back, balance the head. So now, how do we create our own weight belt with that belly button drawn in? Big breath in there, and you can feel that abdominal pressure. And that abdominal pressure is what organizes, uses the correct core muscles to hold us in place. The more we do it, the more load we can hold. We don't have to maximally do it all the time, but we want to get good at being able to be tight and breathe, and also be tight and hold our breath if we're going to do max effort things. So we're just going to mix and match, and we're going to always brace as hard as we need to brace. But it's very important to make the distinction of pressing with the abs, which is still using the core, or drawing in and breathing into that drawn in position. And that's the real way that we want to develop our posture and our positioning in different exercises. Okay, so that's how to stand. So I know it's a lot. That's why I'm going to name everything over and over and over again. In the future, it just turns into get tight. So in the future, we just go get tight and everything happens all together. And that's kind of the power of this. When we do things the same way over and over and over and over again, then the more it just becomes how we do it. And the main thing we want is that when you're in that grocery store looking at something, when you're putting a dish up overhead, when you have a bag and you're traveling, we don't want you to have to think about how to do everything the right way. When the chips are down, we just want the way you move to be the right way to move. And to do that, we have to be really deliberate in everything we do, kind of leading into it. So that's posture. I know it's a lot, but here's the good news is if we're walking, running, setting up for a back squat, doing a burpee, it doesn't matter what we're doing, every single exercise gets organized the exact same way. So even though it might be a little overwhelming in the beginning.
It's weird. What do I do with my arms? I've never thought about that before. Is it this? Or, if I may, this?
Over time, since you set up the exact same way in every single thing we're going to do here on MovementLink, you get really, really good at it. It just turns into what you do and you don't think about it as much. So that's posture. We're going to use that same posture to set up for the squat, the push-up, and the jump. And we can use that posture to check in on, are we doing the right things on these exercises?